So hopefully just a quick little update here. It's kind of the beginning, and I've been busy as hell, but I finally got around to doing a little bit of tinkering on this thing again, and it was some experimentation with different filler wire for the spool gun. And to my knowledge, I don't know, I can't 100% confirm it, but it seems like these old boats were made out of 5052 alloy. Just finding a bunch of like old StarCraft advertisements and stuff like that on the internet, and it seems like that's what they used. So I kind of had to bounce around, and you got some people who say that you should use a filler wire with the same, to shoot for the same first number, basically, to put in layman's terms. If you got 5052, then try and use 5356 as a filler, instead of 4043, which is kind of the more common filler. But you talk to, I don't know, it seems like more people say that it's not, it doesn't matter. 4043 will actually have a better weldability. It's a little more forgiving, but the 5356 would be more corrosion resistant, a little bit harder weld, I think, where the 4043 is a little more, ductile, a little more malleable, I guess is the word. So I don't know. I still got some experimenting to do. So there's not. Some of these welds are a little boogery looking. Some of them are better than others, and that was just kind of me playing around with the machine, getting the hang of it. I had a bunch of problems, and I think it stemmed from the argon that I was using. I just kind of robbed a cylinder that we had sitting around at work that probably had that same cylinder for 15 years. I mean, we only do kind of minor repairs when it comes to aluminum where I work, so I don't get a lot of exposure to doing it. So, but yeah, the gas was, it shouldn't matter how old it is. I was told that certain mixed gases, like 75-25 argon CO2, or I don't know, maybe not that, but other mixed gases can have issues, I guess, when they get really, really old. But from what I'm told, it shouldn't have an issue with argon. But there was a decent amount left in the cylinder, and I was just having all kinds of issues. Very inconsistent welds, very sooty. Didn't seem to matter what my gun angle was. It just was. It was all over the place, and I don't know. I went and I took the cylinder and got a replacement, a new gas, and I didn't. It seems to be much better after that. So I don't know. Maybe the gauge on the regulator isn't as accurate as I think it is, and I was actually running out. I don't know. But once I got that sorted out and played around with it a little bit more, it seemed to be welding a lot better. So doing this intake has been kind of it's a little tricky, because none of the angles match up between the intake and the boat. The flanges are a slightly different angle, so the outer ones that you see, those are a 1/4 inch by 4 inch wide. Those were just welded into the boat to begin with. So they weren't straight, they weren't really square, they were just welded to the boat. And then I actually took these two thicker bars, these are 1/2 inch, that actually is going to serve as the flange on the side. And I tack welded them to the casting. And then I set it down in there, and then tack welded the bars to the 4 inch bars that were already down there. I had to go in and kind of massage the hull around the outsides of those things to make them square with these, you know, with the intake, basically, with these thicker bars here. At least close enough to get me a good good seam to weld. So I got those all in place, and I got one piece built for the front. I was trying to do this with one piece. You know, this will serve as the front of the flange up there in front of the intake, welded to the boat. But I tried to do this with one piece, which would have been 3/4 of an inch thick. And I don't have a oxyacetylene outfit here. I have one at work, and I bring the thing home if I really have to, but I really need to get my own. But we just couldn't, with the thicker piece, we couldn't get enough heat into it to bend it and make it, you know, I mean, it's got to perfectly contour that radius of that intake. So I ended up doing it with 3 pieces, and I just kept stacking them. I would bend one, get it the right shape, bend the next one, and stacked them up, and then welded them all on the front side. So that won't be too bad. I got to beat the hull down a little bit up in the front there so that thing will fit. It's a little tight because, again, the radius on the bottom of the hull is a little bit is a larger radius, I guess, than the radius in the intake. So the very center of the hull's got to get kind of beat down in order to fit these in. But I figured, I just started drilling the holes, actually. I just tried a couple of holes on the sides. And I figured what I would do is get all these side bolts in and pull those flanges up tight, and so you absolutely are for sure that it's perfectly, you know, it's all sandwiched together. These outer ones are going to be exactly where they're going to be, and then try and weld the front and the rear piece in. At least just reach in there, tack it, and then pull the intake again and finish weld them. It's just, I'm really I come out here and I'm just scratching my head, just trying to make damn sure that I don't distort the, you know, the surface of the flange in any way. And right now it's tricky because there's nothing bridging the 2 sides but the thin hull. So that's why I figured I would just bolt it together so it stays, and just try and fish these pieces up in there and tack them in place. And because of that, I had to, I didn't have this hole cut quite down this far, but you can see I had to cut all the way down to the seam there, so I could actually see up in there with the rear piece when I slide it up in there. Because the rear one's even more critical because there's no bolt holes going through, there's no bolts going through it, like clamping it in place. The front you can, oops, sorry, going the wrong way again. The front you can put that piece in there and drill the holes and tighten the bolts up and pull that thing tight with the flange before you tack it. But the back, you can't do that. It's got to be perfect. So, and you're not going to know if it's not, because it's going to be buried back there. You're not going to be able to see it. So it's a little bit tricky. I keep telling people that the rest of the project is going to be way easier. You know, we're just going to be slinging angle iron and tubing and stuff in here, just kind of rough framing things together. Where this is kind of more like on the artistic side, I guess. It's, you know, making this, making a flange that perfectly fits this intake that is not meant for this boat or this radius of hull or anything, really. So, what else do I got? I ground down the outside welds because probably after this intake is done is when we're going to start welding skins in the floor. Yeah, well, we might wait to do that until we can get the transom sorted out. I had to keep test fitting the pump and the suction housing, or the transom housing on there, to make sure that I was going to have the right amount of engagement, or the right, with the O-ring on the bowl that goes into the transom housing right there, because I left the hole in the boat, so I had some travel front to rear, so I could make absolute sure that the O-ring was going to be just in the right spot on the very back of the bowl. That kind of seals around the bowl. So, and I think it's just about right. So, yeah, more or less rambling at this point, I guess. I'm gonna keep chipping away at this and try my damnedest to not warp it in any which way, shape, or form. We got to make up our mind what we're going to do to actually seal the thing. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with that. You know, part of me wants to make some kind of a gasket, you know, maybe combined with silicone or something like that. I really don't. I would like to avoid epoxying it in place, like, you know, like they do in the glass boats, and having to really fight with the thing to get it back out if I have to. So I don't know. I'm not sure what. I know that there's people that have put Berkeleys in aluminum boats, but I don't. I've only ever seen them in fiberglass boats, so I don't know what they do in this case. You know, to get a good amount of longevity out of it and not have it leaking. So, because I would like to make it serviceable if possible. You know, if we end up wrecking the boat or you know, God forbid. But there's something along those lines, and I'd like to be able to get it back out, because a lot of times if you find a second-hand pump that's been pulled from a boat, it doesn't include the intake, because you know, the people don't want to mess with them. They don't want to wrestle with them to get them out of the glass boat that they're junking out, and I don't blame them. It's not easy to get them out. It's a nightmare. So yeah, the last little thing too is I was thinking about is, being that these two bars are a different angle. You know, I had a gap out here, as this matches the angle of the intake. So the bolts going through, if you think about it, they're going to come out through the bottom of the hull, and the heads of the bolts are not going to be flat with the bottom of the hull, because they're going to be going at a different angle. So we were talking about that, and the only thing I could think possibly is you take thin flat bar, you know, maybe 1/8 inch or something, and you have it so all of your holes and underneath the skin also go through this piece of flat bar, and you countersink all of the holes in the flat bar, so you can run the you know, the tapered seat type bolts from the bottom up, and they would countersink into that flat bar, and also kind of sandwich the outer skin with those 4-inch pieces that are right up against the hull. Because then, you know, you could kind of countersink at an angle, and I can't think of any other way of doing it without having just bolt heads down there that are just sitting there cocked, which I think that would really bug me. So I think that's maybe what we end up doing once we get this thing all together and we flip the boat over to smooth it over. On the bottom side, obviously, I'm going to have a seam around the intake, between the intake and the boat, all the way around the perimeter, even once it's bolted in place. So that's going to have to be filled with something and, you know, sanded smooth. So I may use, down there, I may use like Marine Tex epoxy or something like that. Something that'll bond to aluminum and that I can sand smooth, so I can smooth the transition between the boat and the intake. So yeah, some more things to think about. I've been doing more scratching my head than I have been making progress here. I really don't want to goof this part of the project up. Like I said, everything else should go pretty quick, but this is a critical part. So yeah, still rambling. All right, I think that'll about do it for this one. Hopefully this intake is all done for the next video, and you know, we start working on either the transom or the stringers or something. I don't know. It's more about what order I do this in than anything. You know, just trying to make sure I do everything in exactly the right order to make it go as fluidly as possible. So, yeah, thank you for watching. I'll keep chugging away at her.